Hello, and welcome to Holistic Lifestyle Tips, Getting Real About the Woo-Woo. I am Becky Russell, owner of wellness company Hope Essential, and I am a essential oil educator and a holistic lifestyle educator. I just love to teach and share what I know. And one thing about me that is a little unusual is I am 62 and not on any daily medications or prescriptions. And that might not impress everybody, but in my family, that's unheard of because of genetic things. And so I feel that my holistic lifestyle has helped me achieve that. And I want to share what I've learned along the way so that maybe you can get that help too. Holistic means treating the entire body, mind, body, and soul from the inside out. And I feel that's why I'm having such great results. And so I have decided to go a little deeper and interview experts in the holistic field. And I'm so excited. Today, I have Victoria Davis with me. And welcome, Victoria.
Thank you, Becky.
And she is in my home state of Ohio right now. So that is pretty cool. And she is a health and wellness consulting expert and a program developer. Mm-hmm. And I just love the topic for today. It is joy is a weapon. So Victoria, if you want to tell us just a little bit about yourself and then explain this awesome topic.
Absolutely. Thank you again for having me. So, yeah, hey, you guys. So real quick, it's funny, you like how you were saying, we were talking about this off air, how you kind of go from place to place and try to figure out your purpose along the way. But me, myself, and I got into everything because of overcoming Tourette syndrome from a young age, and then really diving into health coaching and sports nutrition and kind of getting this mixing pot. And then now I'm just really excited to say that I've had the wonderful opportunity to speak hundreds of times and coach thousands of people. And that led to developing programs for health and fitness coaches. I really like working with ones that are Christians too, because they tend to kind of get stuck and spin in ministry and mission. And then, but I love working with businesses to help develop holistic, whole, well-rounded programs that fit their company's unique culture. I love doing that. It's so necessary. So that is a little bit about me. And you're totally right. Like, it's really important to not have medication and all that stuff. And so it's like one of my biggest things was really trying to figure out, okay, if I've got all these food intolerances and allergies, like we've got to figure out so much more than just treating the symptoms. So thanks again for having me. And I'm going to go ahead and dive into using joy as a weapon. Really with everything that's not just going on with COVID, but I think that with the way that the world has been shifting, just moving to more of an online presence in general, it's hard to find daily joys. It's hard to really kind of understand what joy means first and foremost. And then when it comes to health, it's really, there's physiological repercussions, right? So it's not just physically what happens to your body in terms of stress manifesting in illness. It's also emotional effects, right? How you react to people or situations. It's also, your spiritual connection, whether that be with God or whatever you call that, the universe or something like that. It's so important. And what I love about joy is it's a constant. It's different than happiness. It's not a fleeting temporary emotion. It's a state of being, and it's an active choice that can always be there regardless of circumstance. And so the battle when it comes to your health is choosing to come from a place of rest, right? So choosing to be at peace, choosing rest, but how do you actually do that, right? How, it's like, it sounds great, but
in the real world.
Yeah, but how do you actually do that? Well, really quick, like joy is something that is definitely dangerous and unbeatable, and like you can't stop it, and it's steadfast and it's constant when you choose to be in that place. And what I mean by that is anytime you're in a difficult situation or circumstance, or you're around a difficult person and you choose to pull back and be proactive instead of reactive and come from a place of joy, it repels everything else. So things like physical stress can't really touch you because you're not allowing that to affect you. Those people who make you frustrated, when you choose to let that roll off and even laugh out loud and smile, the repercussions that happen, right, in your body, it's like, oh, I might not feel good about this, but because my body's doing that, it starts to manifest, and then it's going to freak people out in the way that they're going to think, okay, I thought that what I said would make her angry, or, you know, I'm miserable, why aren't they miserable? That's what I mean by choosing joy as a weapon. So a couple of other things too is people always wonder, does it really matter? Like I just said, if you laugh, does that affect how you feel, you know, emotionally and mentally? It totally does. People always ask what comes first, the emotion or the bodily response. They're both, they're linked. So choosing to do something when you don't feel like it can absolutely have long-term crazy health benefits, especially when it's a positive choice.
Sort of like smiling when you're not really feeling it, that
Yep.
has an effect as well, right?
Oh yeah, faking it till you make it, and it releases, you know, it affects the production of your hormones, the serotonin and the dopamine. And it's as basic as when you feel like, I don't want to work out, like, and everything within you screaming, I don't want to move. But the second that you start moving and you're finished, everything shifts and you're like, I'm so glad I did that. It's the same thing when you come from a place of knowing that joy can be your greatest weapon. So I want to dive into just a couple things on like how to actively choose that, and then I'll finish up with that. So really the most important thing is to kind of identify your beliefs about a difficult situation. You can't change it until you really know what you believe and why you believe it. And so I always have, you know, go through the little exercise. If you want to do that, write down, come up with a person or a situation that's really hard, and every single time you don't feel like being joyful or choosing joy. But when you identify what you believe about it, then you're able to figure out on paper, okay, is this reality? Is this truth? Or am I believing a lie? Is this just my perspective? Because the reality is, when you look at a situation that's difficult, if your attitude is one that's like opposite of joy, right? Like despair, depressed, if you're sad, if you're afraid, if you're doubting it. But if you choose joy instead, I mean, if you look at it from hindsight, the situations still happen, right? You have to go
Right.
through it. So I don't know about you, Becky, but I'm sure that there's situations where you're like, man, if I just learned to shift the way that I viewed the situation, how much quicker perhaps could it even have ended, you know?
You have no idea how timely this is for me. No, I mean, I'm dying inside. I am just like, this is so timely. So thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So here's kind of one thing to remember when you're going through, okay, so how do I practically choose joy? First and foremost, just remember that not all opposition is a result of a choice you've made, right? Sometimes it's just going to happen anyways. And so again, choosing joy in that circumstance is so imperative, because it's our choice. We're empowered. We have the responsibility. We're not victims. We have the opportunity to decide how we get to react when those circumstances come our way. So think about this. When we don't choose joy, we choose to let the circumstance have power over us. And right, when we're passive or when we're indifferent, we choose that versus being proactive. So if we could reframe it and start to say, okay, I'm going to expect difficult circumstances. I know they're going to happen. It doesn't mean that they're like, I deserved it and I did something wrong. It's just, we know for a fact that life will throw things our way. But if we get to try to, you know, do a bird's eye view and say, okay, I know it's going to be hard, and I'm actually going to expect it to be harder, you know, then what happens? Then you can go in there with a, like, oh yeah, I knew that was going to happen, and smile about it and be at peace about it and laugh about it. And that will totally shift how you respond, you know, physically and emotionally, even without noticing it, subconsciously, and all of that. So let me make sure I give like one final tip before we jump. Okay, so really the biggest thing that you can do with this is, I would say, to challenge yourself by kind of identifying a difficult circumstance or problem to tackle. So if there's something that's really difficult, it's really important to look at it and say, okay, like, what in here is my responsibility, right? What can I control in this circumstance? What's beyond my control? First and foremost, do that. Second of all, setting up boundaries, right, for yourself in that circumstance. Say, okay, this is beyond my control, so I don't go across this line, whether that's, you know, trying to fight the battle when it's not yours, or, you know, throwing yourself in front of a bus just because you want the situation to end faster. That's not exactly using wisdom. It might seem like it fixes it, but it actually causes you to lose your joy. If you lose your peace, it's not worth it. And then when you really look and you can say, okay, what's one thing, like what's one situation that's really bringing me unhappiness or sadness or misery or despair, in no matter how small, how could choosing joy change it for you? You know, if you just identified it, wrote out your beliefs about it, and then you said, okay, well, what would joy look like in this situation? And then maybe try to take some deliberate action this week and say, okay, you know, it's just one shift. It's not engaging with that person, or it is engaging with that person in a different way. You know, if expect a certain situation to happen. So when this situation happens, or when this person says this to me, I'm going to act this way instead. When you have it, you know, written out on a piece of paper, it seems silly, but it'll start getting in there, and you meditate on it. Yeah, I'm sure you know.
That helps someone like me have a concrete. If it's abstract and you're just in your head all the time, that's hard for me. So I'm going to replay this and take notes.
Good.
Oh yeah, this is just so timely, because I've sort of been in a spiral and about a certain situation. And so now I feel, even though I knew those steps in regard to another issue, I was in that emotional reaction thing and not being, you know, mindful and less, not taking it so personally. So this is all about me, I guess, today. No, but hopefully I'm sure it's going to resonate with a lot of people. So really what I'm hearing is this affects all aspects of your wellness: emotional, physical, and spiritual.
Yeah, it does. Because one thing that I'll say too is I remember, for example, my father had cancer, and he was fit, slept well, ate organic, prepared all his own foods at home, still got cancer. So for him, he realized that looking back over the past decade, what got him sick was he's an entrepreneur like me, but he was so intense about chasing what he was going to do next, that stress of constantly having to figure it out affected him and lowered his immune system, and there wasn't joy in every circumstance. And he's looked back and realized I was doing the wrong thing for 20 plus years. So it does have huge effects.
Wow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So who should contact you? Who can benefit from what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So 2 things is, one, I always run what's called the Food Freedom Challenge, and it kind of helps people in this space like navigate and shift their relationship with food in a positive, joyful way. It's like identifying lies and shifting from that. So if anyone ever wants to do that, I always have like a rolling list. Second thing is, if anyone wants to kind of figure out, it's like with program development and consulting, I really like to work with people who are trying to get niche clarity and then develop programs that fit their mission, their heart, and then again fits their culture, without just trying to serve everybody. That's really my heart, and especially I love, like I said at the beginning, working with believers. So that's me.
Okay. And how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so Victoria@aviditysisters.com. It's kind of a confusing email. So I just say, search Coach Victoria Patricia. That's my website, or my Facebook page. That's super easy.
Okay. And then once this is posted, you can go in and just provide that information too.
I will do that.
To make it easy for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I always like to end with a fun random question, and I would love to know, where is your happy place?
That's such a good question. I love that question. I would say it's sort of twofold for me. I love early mornings, quiet in my room with music, like instrumental, and a good cup of like coffee or tea. I love that one-on-one time. It's usually reading that, or the second one is I love just walking outside in nature, walking, hiking, running. That pretty much, those are the two things. Like if I can get that movement in, that's like the consistent cardio for some reason, that space, just like that, makes me super happy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And like I said, it's so timely for me, and I really needed to hear this message. So thank you.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you. So fun. Thanks. I really appreciate
Yeah.
being here, and I love connecting with you. So thanks, Becky.
You bet. And so if don't forget that if you have not seen past videos, they're all on my website, hopeessential.com. And you can find out events and education on the oils and holistic living on my business page on Facebook, and that is Hope Essential LLC. And so till next time, choose you, choose natural, choose now.